Big fat largemouth. Nice catch, man. Vegetation down the bottom. This area keeps coming back with the spin. Putting in today at Tidings on the Susquehanna Flats. Here with my buddy Tom today and Jed behind the camera.
What's up, Jed?
The plan is, you can zoom in on here, putting in here, we're gonna run out into the channel and run down that channel all the way, working an edge, looking for striper. Hopefully we intercept them. It's actually been kind of slow here with the cold spring for the striper, but people are getting them here and there. If that doesn't pan out, we're gonna take this channel along the west bank all the way up, probably stopping off here in Swan Creek to catch a couple largemouth and maybe work spinner baits and some big jerk baits all along that bank heading back.
All right. Just landed this largemouth. Out here, we're at the mouth of the marina. I caught him on a plastic swim bait rigged on an 1/8 ounce swim bait head, and we were just working in the corner of these posts and in this steel wall right here. It's the way to fly right here. Torpedo. Power 3.
So we're heading over to the Perryville side. We did find the creek channel out here, but we kind of don't feel like getting hammered by all these waves. I'm thinking with the high bank on that side, will be a little bit more wind protection. It's not horrible, but we don't have, 2 out of the 3 boats don't have adequate anchors to hold on that creek channel. No striper yet, but got a nice big fat largemouth. We're out in this flat that's got a lot of 4 to 6 foot deep water. We got some birds diving down, and I've actually come across a couple of shad that are chewed up by the fish, and I'm hoping by some stripers. So we're in the right spot. On the depth finder, I'm seeing grass and I'm pulling up grass here and there. So, you know, no striper yet, but look at that fat largie. Alright, chunker. See ya. Got another one on the big chartreuse spinnerbait. One thing that I've done to make it an even bigger profile is I put a soft plastic trailer on it. See ya, fishy. This is one I molded myself. It's called a baby berry. Look at all those appendages off there. It's something that's a creature bait, and I think traditionally people look at that mold and say, yep, that should be a craw color. But I shot it in chartreuse just to make a real nice trailer for a spinnerbait. And it's working out. Whole lot of flappiness and big presence in the water. A lot of grass in this area keeps coming back on the spinnerbait. Fairly shallow. You can see the grass on the depth finder. We're towing each other here with the Torpedo motor, and we've exhausted the first battery, and we're actually swapping batteries out now. So even with 3 of us on one Torpedo motor, we're making, pretty good tracks across the across the flats. It helps that I know we ate up a lot of the power going into the wind this morning, but with it glassy like this, we're getting a lot more distance. So
All right.
Sir.
Torpedo.
Yeah, put
Check.
the big
one
one
in
in first. On our way home, didn't get any stripers today, but I definitely got some insight into some of the structures that were out there that I think are going to help us catch some fish on the flats when the striper do arrive in really great numbers. The main thing that I found motoring along, looking at the depth finder, are these ruts or these trenches out in the middle of the flats. You know, you'll have 3-4 feet of water, and you'll have the grass here and there, and then it'll dip down to 5-6, and then it'll come back up to 3 and 4. And sometimes those trenches or ruts or whatever they are out there get a little bit deeper, but certainly the two nice largemouth that I got today were in those ruts, and they were where there was vegetation. So that is certainly encouraging to get that insight, and, you know, at least have a good starting point when I go here in another couple days, and hopefully by then the striper in.
Here we are, Susquehanna Flats, springtime. Chasing rockfish. It's been an incredibly slow year, but sometimes you have bird activity. You don't need a lot of bird activity like you do in the fall. You just need a few birds, and I check it out. 1 or 2 birds. You'd almost always leave 1 or 2 birds alone, but this time of year, definitely check it out.
There's like a cloud of them.
Yeah, and that could certainly be something. We just hit the grass in about 5 feet. We're about to steadily just go shallower and shallower to about a foot or 2. And as we do, you know, these fish could just actually be anywhere. There's no rhyme or reason really why they're out here. The herring get in the grass, the bass seek them out, and we catch them, period. Big striper. I need to turn around.
Hold on, I'm gonna let you go.
All right. Should be an average fish. Probably about 28 inches, about 7 pounds.
Huh. Nice catch, man.
Yeah.
Let me take a couple shots here.
These things on top water are a lot of fun. Now these are almost resident. I mean, you get fish, I guess, all year round, but they're not here. You get them on the big bridge year round for sure.
Huh. And that was just trolling your...
Trolling the Tony set number 17 spoon about it. It literally goes a foot or 2 under the surface, tops.
Nice catch, man.
But there certainly could be more here.
So we're gonna troll the whole way out.
Well, I suggest we
work that area.
I suggest we work this. So, birds. Now, I'm talking mostly from bays, anywhere Chesapeake Bay standpoint. The bigger the birds, the bigger the bait. Hopefully, the bigger the fish. You see those turns on rain minnows or bay anchovies that are only an inch long. Typically, you're only going to have young of the year, or first year, second year striped bass that will be 10, 12 inches. You want to find big fish consistently. You ignore the smaller birds, you go for the bigger birds. Sorry, I'm not an ornithologist, but these guys are big. There's only 3 on the water, but for the Susquehanna Flats, 3 birds within close proximity is certainly worth checking out. I had a banner day, and the day that I found them on birds one time, birds on bait, they were eating white perch as far as I could tell. But hey, white perch get eaten too.
Big birds, big bass.
Big birds, big fish, big bait, big fish. This could be interesting.
I see 2 here and 1 there. Oh, that's a good. That's real nice. moved back into a bay. Current is rolling out. I'm on a point and I'm fishing a jig, the Confidence Baits finesse jig with that 5/0 hook, a big old Caney Creek crawl on it. Short and fat. Not fishy. I just hooked the one that bit and got off a second ago. Yeah. That was probably a different one. There's a bunch of them lined up on this point.
Yeah? Oh, that's what you want, right?
It is. They're fat. Fat fishes. Alright, you can see that point. The current's rolling from left to right. You can see that mud line coming across it. He was somewhere right out on that debris line. Go ahead and put him back in there. Here are a couple structural elements that I wanted to go over from some recent trips to the to fishing the Susquehanna Flats for both largemouth, and also they certainly apply to the striper fishing. This is sort of a side view of what I found out on the middle of the flats. Here's the old river channel. Certainly this is a very dominant feature out there in the middle, and it's a good idea to fish these drop-offs on either side, especially when there's a wind coming across here. You want to fish the drop-off on this side. The fish are going to position, right on that drop-off, looking up at things just washing over in what's essentially going to be a vertical eddy coming across. Really good feeding station there, and that certainly is a rip of some sort. The other thing that's a very subtle sort of structure out there in the middle that you may or may not notice, and I didn't really notice until I got the motor of the on the kayak scooting me across the flats at a pretty good rate. The bottom looked sort of like the wavy sort of pattern of like even corrugated cardboard or something like that. But whereas if you're moving around slowly, you just notice, it's all pretty much the same depth. But it does change some. Changes, from 3 feet down into 7 feet and back up to 3 feet in the course of maybe, 2 or 3 casts across. And you get down in the bottom of these, and if you find, a little bit of the weed growth coming up, the emerging vegetation down in the bottom, that's where I found some of my bass, mixed into that, into the emerging vegetation there, taking that spinnerbait through there. They were definitely positioned down into the low spots. I think there are times where they could get up at the top, but just recognizing that it isn't really, all flat, that there is some variation, and understanding that, these structural elements are going to be part of your pattern development is very important. When I got off the flats and I tucked up into one of the bays, associated with the flats up there, I found tidal rips, and these are, this is a two-dimensional representation of one of the bays that's connected to it, and I used 2 different colors here for showing the green arrows. That's the outgoing tide, and when the tide was going out, I could find these points, and the current would sweep across, and it would curl in like that, and right in here is where I was catching fish, and there were foam bubbles, and there was leaves and debris that showed me that this was very still water, whereas certainly what was sweeping across was very quick. So I would just move from point to point to point, hitting it, in, and then also coming back out of these the bays that are attached to the flats. And then on the incoming tide, it's the same thing. It's going to be rushing the opposite direction. You just find these other, little, and they're eddies. Just like on the river, they're eddies, but they're eddies from a tidal flow coming up and filling in or evacuating out of the bay. You can do the same thing on grass beds. If you do find grass beds out in the middle of this stuff, whenever it comes across, find one that has a point and find the eddies on the back of the on the back side of them. So.